This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
What's going on, everybody, guys and girls? Welcome back to another edition of the SmackDown Review right here on the WWE Podcast. As always, I'm one of the hosts of this show, Micheal Ritter. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Micheal5Ritter, and also one of the hosts of the Football Function Podcast, available on all your podcasting platforms, including on Patreon, if you are a listener who just prefers zero ads. That's the exact type of listener I am. So anytime I get the opportunity to get an ad-free version of one of my favorite podcasts, I will 100% jump on that opportunity. But if you are just, kind of a so-so football fan and you're really not a diehard football fan and you may just want to, check it out, I highly recommend going over and checking out the Football Function Podcast. I definitely would appreciate that. And hopefully you will be informed and entertained in the football world. But keeping things in the wrestling world, it was a pretty big week for me personally, and just for wrestling in general. I feel like this was a pretty good week in terms of Raw and SmackDown. I was at Monday Night Raw in Oklahoma City, my first ever Raw to attend live, and it certainly didn't disappoint. Like, the show itself, great show. I was thrilled with everything that was going on in terms of storylines and the matches that we got. Great show, but our view, just the seats that we got specifically, were phenomenal. They were right there on the camera side, like the side that's shown by the hard cam. Excuse me. So there were several moments during the show where I went back and watched, and you could clearly see John and myself. I was wearing a blue LA Knight shirt and a red Atlanta Falcons hat, so it's pretty noticeable, just the red top, blue shirt. And yeah, there was multiple instances during the night where you can just clearly see us just because of where our seats were. And one match in particular, which was the Falls Count Anywhere match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Ricochet, they made their way over to our section. They were going down our stairs, I guess you could say, and John and I were just like the third and fourth seat in our row, so we were right there next to the action, had a great view. Just a pretty cool little moment, one that you'll definitely remember for the rest of your life, pretty much. I mean, I don't go to Raws. This is my first Raw to go to, and I'm about to turn 30 years old. So clearly I'm averaging one every 30 years, which, if you do the math, I maybe got like 2 Raws left in me for the rest of my life, unless, something happens and I just start going to them out the wazoo, which definitely is a possibility now that, you get older, you have more financial freedom. You're able to do things that you might not have been able to do when you were younger. That kind of is the story of my trips to Atlanta. Like, I live in Texas, so for the longest time, going to watch the Falcons play in Atlanta was literally a pipe dream. Like, I never thought that I would ever do it. And now I just finished up my 10th trip to Atlanta. That's not even counting the road games that I've been to watch. So as time goes on and as you get older, you're obviously able to do a lot more things, and hopefully I'll be able to attend many, many more Raws and SmackDowns and everything in between over the next, handful of years. But I am here to talk about the SmackDown that aired on October 20th, 2023 from San Antonio, Texas. Location breakdown brought to you by none other than Mr. DJ Kuzmo, so we want to give a good shout out to him, obviously. The AT&T Center, where the San Antonio Spurs play, that's where the Friday Night SmackDown took place last night. I have not been there, been to the Alamo Dome, but yeah, Texas is huge, guys. Just because someone's in the same state as you, like San Antonio, because I live in the panhandle of Texas, which is right up there near Oklahoma, near Colorado, near New Mexico. All of those states are pretty much, a hop and a skip away. Now, San Antonio, it's a little bit of a different story. That's like 8 hours. I could literally get to pretty much anywhere in the Midwest. I could get almost to Las Vegas damn near. That's a pretty far drive. But still, what I'm saying is I could get pretty far across the country in 8 hours of driving. Whereas here in Texas, you're barely going to, 8 hours will get you across the state, but there's still probably, 4 hours at least on the other side of that. That's still, a lot of ground to cover, and there's just so many different regions here. So San Antonio might seem like it's, doable, but believe it or not, Oklahoma City is about half the trip from where I live. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma is about 4 hours from where I am right now, and San Antonio is about 8 hours. So, as much as I would have loved to go to this show, as much as I would have loved to go to the one last week in Tulsa, the cookie just didn't crumble that way. And I was able to go to Oklahoma City, and I'm extremely thankful for that. But this SmackDown was pretty damn good, I will say. I mean, it opened with Paul Heyman pretty much just announcing that LA Knight and Roman Reigns is official at Crown Jewel. Obviously, he takes a shot at Texas, as most people do. He's mentioning the similarities between them. He says, I'm actually pretty similar to you guys. Well, actually, you're from Texas, I'm from New York City, so I dress better. I make a hell of a lot more money than you guys do. So we are different in some aspects, but nonetheless, we are alike in some ways, such as I'm an admirer of LA Knight as well. That's what he's saying. He's saying just like us fans, he also appreciates the work of LA Knight. In fact, he's told LA Knight that to his face. But he also wants to warn us, all of the LA Knight fans out there, to enjoy this match because it very well could be, and in fact, he said it will be, the last time we see him inside of a WWE ring, implying that Roman Reigns is likely going to bury this guy. He's going to absolutely put him in the ground, and he's not going to have a shot at winning the title, and he might even put him on the shelf. So we'll see, how the match plays out. But LA Knight does come out to the ring and just essentially punks Paul Heyman. He tells him to say what he was just saying, but this time say it to his face. Of course, Paul Heyman is there shaking in his boots. He tries to leave. LA Knight doesn't let him. And then LA Knight asks him if the spear that he received last week at the end of SmackDown was a smart move, because he knows it was a warning shot. But with LA Knight, he's not big on warning shots. You better put him down the moment that you take that shot. And he pretty much implies that Roman Reigns is scared to face him because he has never seen anybody quite like LA Knight before. That's debatable, depending on what you mean. Are you referring to somebody like LA Knight in terms of his character style? Because he kind of has. John Cena and LA Knight, although they're not extremely similar, they're not identical carbon copies of each other, they're both phenomenal on the microphone and could, without a doubt, hold your own and make you look stupid. We've seen John Cena literally do that to Roman Reigns in the past. LA Knight is capable of doing that. They don't want to let these guys go verbally week in, week out, because I think the WWE would come out looking like, man, our champion is kind of getting dunked on by this guy. But are you looking at it from a sense of Roman Reigns has never faced someone this hot? Because that right there is somewhat debatable too. You guys remember Sami Zayn last year at Elimination Chamber, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Sami Zayn had the whole WWE universe behind him. The storyline was there. It wasn't just kind of thrown together. We weren't just giving it and pretty much taking it because we are LA Knight fans. The Sami Zayn storyline made a lot of sense. So as much as I do like LA Knight and am cheering for him in this program, I did kind of get a little bit puzzled there because Roman Reigns, he's faced a gauntlet over the years. Like let's not even talk about this run that he's on right now, this 3-year run, which has featured a lot of worthy opponents. We can even date back to guys like Brock Lesnar, Sheamus, Bray Wyatt. Like Roman Reigns has faced some pretty hot wrestlers in terms of where they are in the pecking order, where they are at their point in their career, and obviously viewed by creative. So I am on board with everything LA Knight's saying, but let's not discredit exactly what Roman Reigns has gone through to get to this point. We will get a contract signing next week on SmackDown. It's not the go home show. It's 2 weeks before Crown Jewel, because I do believe Crown Jewel's 2 weeks from today. I'm recording this on Saturday morning. So it's not going to be the go home show that we get the contract signing. We're going to get it next week. And you might see a little bit of what I was alluding to, giving LA Knight a whole week to come up with some stuff to say to Roman Reigns. While Roman Reigns, on the other hand, just has to come up with a couple one-liners, a couple good burns, because he can essentially just discredit everything that LA Knight says to him. No matter how, authentic and no matter how credible it is, Roman Reigns could just, flex his muscle, show him the championships, talk about the streak and, the current reign that he's on. That's like pretty much what Patriots fans have been able to do for years and years. It didn't matter if you were kicking their ass week 8 in a regular season game. They're going to just pretty much be like, yeah, I mean, you're beating me right now, but, whenever we both go home and we look in the mirror and I have my 6 Lombardi trophies and you're either a championship-less franchise or you just don't have the resume, the credentials that I have. And it's, I'm able to sleep at night a little bit better despite losing, knowing that, hey, I've accomplished a lot. Roman Reigns can somewhat flex his muscle here in this situation and pretty much just, let his belts talk for him. And that's something that he's done a lot. He has a mouthpiece, the best of all time with Paul Heyman. So this will be, without a doubt, a program that, sometimes you look at, you look at feuds between two wrestlers and you think, okay, these guys are going to go in the ring. Like Shinsuke and Ricochet, you didn't question one bit whether they were going to put on a hell of a match. But it's all of the extra stuff, all the stuff that kind of doesn't show up on a stat sheet in a sense of the programs, the promos that they're spitting, all the segments leading up to build the match and make you really excited and, build anticipation for it. Not all programs get that. They get the bell-to-bell action. That's all top tier. These are professional wrestlers. Everybody should be able to compete and put on a hell of a match. It's the stuff that we're going to get in between the matches. Whenever they're out there with Nick Aldis, obviously, probably going to have some security out there as well just to get this contract signing done. That's the stuff that you can't do with just your every championship match. There's a reason why we didn't get that with Charlotte Flair and Io Sky tonight. I mean, there would have been nothing to gain from it. It wouldn't have made it any more of a hot program. Io Sky isn't really that sharp on the mic for obvious reasons. So we're really, you can't, what I'm trying to say is that's not a crutch that you can use for everybody. And the fact that we are getting it, we are getting A1 type of promos from these guys because LA Knight, we already know what he can do on the microphone. We just mentioned that Paul Heyman's going to be doing some talking. Roman Reigns is a pretty good promo in of itself. He's come a long way from whenever he would just get decimated for not being able to cut a promo back in his babyface run. He can 100% stand on his own now, and he can go toe-to-toe with the likes of guys like LA Knight. So we are going to get a chance to see that next week and probably one more the following week for the go-home show before we get into Crown Jewel. So I am excited about that. This is something that, you guys know how I feel about it. I don't think LA Knight's going to win. I'm going to be rooting for him. If there is moments in the match where they make you believe, I will probably be extremely invested because I do want to see LA Knight win, but I understand the logic here. I'm not an idiot. I know exactly where they are with the Roman Reigns and, his record day. He's already, over 1,100 days. Like he's creeping up on 1,200 days as the champion. It's to the point now to where I'd be shocked if he lost at Mania. And that's something I thought he was going to lose last year at WrestleMania. Now I'm like, man, the streak is all that matters. That number is all that matters to them. Like, they don't care how they get it. They don't care if it's even relevant. Like, what's the point? That's my whole issue is people will bring up, well, WWE is never going to get an opportunity to, to have a WWE champion be the champ for this many days. You have to strike while the iron's hot. Who is sitting here clamoring for some record-breaking streak? I'm not speaking for anybody. I'm not telling anybody how to be a fan or what they should cheer for by any means. But I'm just simply saying I haven't seen anybody out here clamoring, we want to see Roman Reigns break the streak. And of course, there probably is. There's literally Roman Reigns stan accounts on Twitter that just, they don't ever want to see Roman Reigns lose. They'll go for 3,000 days if they could. So I totally get that. But it's just the one thing I don't get is why we're being fed this in the first place. It's just the streak is going to be impressive when you look at the number. That's it, just the number. But whenever you actually turn the page and you actually dig a little bit deeper into this streak, it's not going to stand next to some of the other ones because we know how manufactured it was. We knew that there was an average of probably 3 months. That's on average. There's probably longer between some. But Roman Reigns goes an average of 3 months in between these title defenses. And that's just, I pulled that from my rear end. I don't know if the exact number. To be honest, I'm probably doing them a little bit, being generous a little bit. It probably is a little bit longer. But if you look at the way that he, defends this championship, That's why this title reign, no matter how many days it goes, I'm going to remember it as it was forced. Like, it was one of those things, like, it didn't happen organically. Yes, the championship was on it, but keep in mind, WWE has been trying to do this specific thing with Roman Reigns for a very, very long time, way longer than this streak. This goes on way longer than 2020, whenever he came back and won the Universal Championship. This dates back to like 2015, 2016. Go back to the first time he won the Royal Rumble, whenever he got booed in Philadelphia, and they had him lose at WrestleMania 31. Seth Rollins comes out, cashes in the heist of the century. Everybody knows all about that. But WWE has been trying to put Roman Reigns on the throne and have him be the one who's spearheading this company for nearly a decade. And it's finally working. You know, it got about 7 years into it, and now, bam, here we are. This is the greatest of all time. And that's totally fine. You know, the facts are the facts. We are here for a reason. But let's not try to rewrite history. Let's not try to make it seem like this championship reign was something that it's not. Because, I don't know, I guess I just have a problem with being told and pretty much being told how to feel about this. Like, I don't really think that this championship reign is as impressive as it's being, you know, laid out. Like, oh, he's on a 1,100-day streak. Well, I've witnessed and covered, literally, I've been the host of the SmackDown review for his entire title reign. The mailbag's coming up on its 3-year birthday here in November. I think like a couple weeks from now is whenever we're going to get a nice celebratory mailbag. Well, about a month before that is when I started doing the SmackDown review. So my 3-year celebration has already come to pass, and I was a witness for all of this Roman Reigns dominance. And as impressive as it was, especially for the first year and a half, I think after WrestleMania 38, whenever they did that unification match, that's whenever it kind of it turned the page. You know, it went from, holy crap, Roman Reigns is climbing this mountain, and, you know, who knows how far we're going to go. We haven't seen anything like this. Now he's at the top, and it's like we're all kind of waiting for it to come down. You know, where, you know, when's this guy going to come back down here? You know, when's he going to come back down to earth? Nobody knows. Don't anticipate it being here, and I honestly didn't even anticipate going on a little mini rant there. But I guess I just had to get that off my chest a little bit. Let's go ahead and continue on here in the SmackDown, shall we? Montez Ford versus Santos Escobar. There was a lot of interference in this match, obviously, was initiated by Angelo Dawkins, but of course the LWO have Santos Escobar's back. So they try to even the score, but Ford narrowly steals a win with the help of a roll-up. And then the Street Profits try to put a post-match beatdown on Montez Ford, like what they've been doing here as of late, kind of their way to establish dominance in their new role here on SmackDown. But Carlito, his music hits, and he comes out with a steel chair and puts a stop to all of the chaos. I am glad to see Carlito back here officially in WWE making appearances like this. I do want to see more of him, though. I don't want him to just be the guy who comes out to get a quick pop, to get a cheap pop, and scare the heels off and then pretty much just, you know, go into the sunset. Carlito is a character, man. Like, Carlito is someone that could have a one-on-one feud by himself. I know they're probably trying to ease him into it. Makes sense. But I do want to, you know, I guess I want to see him get in a program. I want to see him as a heel, to be completely honest. So the fact that he's a babyface right now, that might be what's kind of odd, because Carlito is just such a good heel. But we'll likely get into that as time goes on here and he gets more acclimated to being back in the WWE. Up next, Pretty Deadly is shown at a spa, just simply enjoying life. They're both saying, hey man, life has absolutely never been better. And they're actually pretty thankful that because of what they did last week, getting the win over Butch and Ridge Holland, that they never have to see the Brawling Brutes again, which perfectly sets up the Brutes to appear out of nowhere at that spa and just completely wreck their moment of relaxation. They pull them up, they're beating the crap out of them, sticking their head in the little things that their feet were just soaking in. I apologize for not knowing the name, exactly what those things are called, but it doesn't seem like something you'd want to stick your face in, right? Like, my feet were just in there, and it seems kind of, yeah, you know, but nonetheless, they stuck their face in there, and hey, you know, clearly they were wrong. They're going to have to see the Brawling Brutes again at some point. Up next here in the show, John Cena comes out and addresses the crowd. Very, very hot crowd there in San Antonio. He says that he needs to talk about a hard truth. He was hit with a hard truth earlier that day. And, naturally, whenever he says that, I was just expecting the worst. I was like, man, he's about to say that he got a call from somebody in Hollywood and he needed to go back. Like, he's needed elsewhere. And this return from John Cena, this little fairy tale that we've been on here over the past couple of months, is about to come to an abrupt ending. But it's not really that. He does point out that he hasn't won a televised singles match in 2,002 days, dating all the way back to 2018. I mean, he even brings up the word retire right there because it's just simply like he's asking himself, like, why can't he win? Why can't he get it done anymore? And it was strange. It was a strange moment at first because I honestly thought he was about to say goodbye whenever he first started this segment. And then he mentions the word retire again. And I'm like, oh, man, come on. Like, don't play with my emotions here. What are we doing? And then obviously the crowd floods him with "You still got it" chants. And then Cena says that he feels sorry for the next idiot to walk out of the curtain. And on cue, here comes Solo Sikoa. Those two waste very little time, get right to throwing some blows. And of course, Jimmy Uso comes out and hits Cena with a super kick, causing it to be a 2-on-1 disadvantage, which is what we're accustomed to seeing with the Bloodline. But out of nowhere, a person wearing black, dressed up as an equipment person, or just, a camera person, whatever, a person wearing black comes up, pulls Jimmy Uso out of the ring, and starts attacking him. That person wearing all black, none other than Jey Uso, who finally gets a little bit of retribution against his brother, who cost him multiple championships at this point. I mean, he cost him his match against Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. He also just cost him the Tag Team Championships this past Monday night in Oklahoma City. So, yeah, Jimmy Uso had this coming, and we got to see Jey. He comes out, he attacks him. It was just some beautiful stuff. Once you saw it happen, you were hoping it was Jey Uso, and then once he took off his hood, you saw that it really was him, and it just sets up. I do believe that we're going to get this a little bit sooner than what we all thought, this Jimmy versus Jey. I thought putting him on different shows was going to, I guess, try to distance this, try to spread it out a little bit, make it last a little bit longer, burn a little bit slower. But if they're going at it like this, like if they're going to the other person's show and costing that person things, whether it's a championship match or, just making him look stupid after he came out to try to jump John Cena, either way, we're on a path and on the fast track now to this one-on-one match between Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso. I thought this was going to happen at Mania, but who knows? They could stretch it out. One of them could cost the other one in the Royal Rumble. But this does feel like they're heading towards Survivor Series. But this also leads us to a segment backstage because Jey Uso, clearly not a member of SmackDown, he's not allowed to be there, especially, interrupting segments. So things get a little bit chippy backstage with Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, the two respective general managers for Raw and SmackDown. Because of this whole Uso invasion that's been happening this week, both, Jimmy going to Raw and now Jey coming over to SmackDown. So Jey gets fined $10,000 for his actions tonight, or last night, I should say. I'm reading my notes here, in which Pearce asks if Jimmy is going to be receiving the same fine. Like, hey, your guy came over to my show and pretty much ruined a championship main event. So yeah, is that going to be something that's taken into account here? Like, are we just going to forget about that? What's going to happen? Aldis just pretty much says, hey man, I can't control what happens on Monday Night Raw, but I definitely can control what happens here on Friday Night SmackDown. He then tells security to escort Jey Uso out of the building. And Pearce steps in and says, hey, that's really not necessary, obviously. I'm here. I will escort Jey Uso out of this building. And Aldis does him one better and asks security to escort them both out of the arena. And obviously, this infuriates Adam Pearce. He does not appreciate this one bit. He even takes off his glasses, gets in his face. Are you kicking me out of this building? Okay, yeah, I am, exactly. Adam Pearce says, all right, let the games begin. And my question here I ask myself is, does this tee up a brand versus brand Survivor Series? We already talked about Jimmy and Jey. They're on different brands. We're kind of, that seems like a layup, Raw versus SmackDown match there for Survivor Series. But now that they have the general managers kind of having beef with each other, why wouldn't we get a little bit more, put the foot on the gas here? I'm not saying like, hey, we need brand versus brand. I'm not preaching brand versus brand at Survivor Series. I'm talking about keeping this brand split strong, making it feel real. This segment right here, it felt like they're two different brands. It felt like there's going to be consequences if you appear on the different brand. It felt like there was some competitiveness, some animosity now that Adam Pearce has been kicked out of the arena. It just felt like it took a massive step forward today, and I love to see it. I was sitting there popping on my couch, just like, man, are you like, give me this, give me more of this. I want to see the general manager, especially of my show, especially of SmackDown out here, flexing his muscle, which, no pun intended. Nick Aldis looks like an absolute jack dude. But I just enjoyed seeing this. I hope we get more of this, even on Monday Night Raw. Take some shots at SmackDown. Keep it coming. I just feel like the commentary teams could have a little bit to do with this as well. And, I'm all for it. Give me more Raw versus SmackDown year-round, though. Like, I don't want to see them interact with each other except for the pay-per-views where they just so happen to be there together. But as far as the, hey, we're on our show and you're on yours, you shouldn't be here. Yeah, give me that year-round. But let's continue on here. Logan Paul comes out and pretty much talks about his recent boxing win. He goes on about that for a little bit. Doesn't mention anybody's name. He refers to him as a troll and a scumbag and, every name in the book. But he quickly turns his attention to his next motive. He wants to be very clear that he's not back for Rey Mysterio. He reminds us all that he's already beat Rey Mysterio in his very first WWE match. Been there, done that. He's already accomplished it. In fact, a lot of things have changed since the last time that he beat Rey Mysterio. He lists a couple. For example, Roman Reigns was still wrestling, defending his championship on Friday Night SmackDown, or he pretty much just showed up to wrestle. Those were his words exactly. He also says that Dominic was still Rey Mysterio's son, and LA Knight didn't have a job. So he's just pretty much saying like, yo, the world was different the last time me and Rey Mysterio fought. So this isn't about Rey Mysterio, but Rey does have something that I really do want, and that is the United States Championship. So that's why Logan's back. He's not back because he wants to, fight Rey Mysterio personally. He'd be going after anybody who was the U.S. champion or the U.S. champion at this point, and it just so happens to be Rey Mysterio. So we are going to get this match. Rey comes out, and he says that Logan reminds him of his son Dominic. He's got that raw, natural talent. He just seems like someone who has, a really bright future ahead of him, but he also thinks that, Logan has a big mouth, just like Dom, and that he needs some humbling. He says that, whenever he did, have his match with Dominic or Rey Mysterio, at first he was a bit reluctant. We all remember that. He wouldn't accept the match with Dominic until Dominic pretty much, was getting in his mom's face and his sister's face and just being an absolute a-hole to them. And that's when Rey was like, all right, I've had enough here. Badass moment. I remember covering that. Haven't really thought about it since. But he says that he won't be reluctant at all to beat Logan Paul's ass. And then the match is made official for Crown Jewel. The two sides shake hands. We get some Spanish, some poor Spanish from Logan Paul. But nonetheless, this match is made official at Crown Jewel. Almost said Survivor Series. At Crown Jewel, we get Logan Paul going for that U.S. title up against Rey Mysterio. And I don't know, man. My gut's telling me Logan might win this. I think he might. I think WWE is going to try something here, and they just might put that title on him. Who knows? This could be just a brilliant job by WWE to make us think, to kind of swerve us that, Logan Paul has a shot. But nonetheless, I do think he has a legitimate shot, and to be honest, I might actually pick him to win this match. Up next, we get a tag team match, A-Town Down Under versus Grimes and Dragon Lee. The quickest match of the night, A-Town Down Under comes out on top and remains undefeated. There really wasn't anything notable in this match. A little bit of filler, just a little bit of, hey, we're going to give these guys another win. And we quickly move on. And we move on to a backstage interview with Kevin Owens. Kathy Kelly asks him about the trade that brought him over to SmackDown in the first place. And obviously, he's not really happy about it for multiple reasons. It's not that he's not happy about it. It's more of a bittersweet type of feeling because he's looking forward to the fresh aspect of, a fresh start. He's also looking forward to the chance to wrestle some people that he's never wrestled before, such as Rey Mysterio. He's never had a one-on-one match with him. He's never had a one-on-one match with Sheamus. He's never really locked horns with the Brawling Brutes. He goes on to name some things that he's looking forward to be excited about. But obviously, him and Sami Zayn have a really strong connection, a really good team that they just lost those championships. They felt like they had a chance to get them back and go on a little bit of a tag team run. They're on SmackDown, or on Monday Night Raw, I apologize, but sometimes that's not the way the cookie crumbles. That's not the way that things unfold. And Kevin Owens ends up on SmackDown, and I really think that he's going to thrive here. I think that he's going to be a big-time main event player. He even mentions the bloodline. He says they hope they don't cross paths with me, but let's be honest, it's going to happen eventually. I love the fact that Kevin Owens is on SmackDown. I'm still excited about this move. I hope we get more from him going forward. Clearly we're going to. I mean, all he's done is, come out for one segment and then have a backstage interview. At some point, we're going to actually get him in a program. But if Logan Paul captures that U.S. title, give me KO versus Logan Paul for a program going into Survivor Series or just into the winter. I think that'd be pretty cool, getting Kevin Owens and Logan Paul kind of having those promo battles and just how different those guys are. I think that it would set up for some phenomenal WWE television there. Let's see here. What do we have left? Just the main event? I believe so. The WWE Women's Championship match between Charlotte Flair and Io Sky. Charlotte's going for her 15th championship here. I honestly, going into the match, I thought she was going to win. I'm not going to put money on Charlotte losing. If I'm a betting man, if I'm, going to actually, have some stake in something, I'm going to put it on Charlotte winning a championship match, especially one that, is the main event of a show. It just kind of felt like this was setting up for Charlotte to win. But obviously, Damage Control in Io's corner. It's tough to beat Io whenever she has those two women there supporting her and, interfering throughout the match, especially towards the end whenever Charlotte hit a spear and she had Io Sky pinned, and Bayley put Io's leg on the rope to cause a rope break. So Charlotte puts her up and sets her in position for another spear, but Dakota Kai slipped Io the women's title, and Io kind of puts it right there in her midsection. So whenever Charlotte hits the spear, she's protected by that championship, and also Charlotte hits her head on it. So yeah, the Charlotte, took a little bit of a belt shot to the head. And Io Sky is able to steal the win and successfully defend her championship. After the match is over, obviously, Damage Control is trying to do their thing to Charlotte, have that disadvantage, but Bianca Belair comes to the rescue, and puts Damage Control back in their place. I'm not sure if this is trying to set up the next opponent, like if Io is going to have to defend it against Bianca now. Not really sure where they're going, because this does seem like, Charlotte lost. She shouldn't be guaranteed another championship match or anything like that. So, not really sure where they're going. I'm definitely looking forward to finding out, though. We'll probably get a lot more of that once we get to November. But until then, we're going to have to just fly by the seat of our pants here and, see what they do with this women's championship picture. But that does do it for me here, guys. I do appreciate you, sticking with me here for this SmackDown review. To be honest, this is going to be my last podcast that I do in my 20s. The next time you hear from me, I will be in the 30 Club. I'll be the Dirty 30 tomorrow, actually. Less than 24 hours. I turn 30 years old on Sunday. Get to watch the Falcons play. Have a nice day off. I'm looking forward to it. But I do want to thank you guys. Obviously, I started podcasting here whenever I was 26 years old. Pretty crazy to think about. So I've already, gone through the late 20s portion of my life being a podcaster. It's been a phenomenal chapter, just being, peek behind the curtain. This is where I got my feet wet here in the WWE podcast. I feel like I've come a long way. I 100% have gotten a lot more comfortable, even if I haven't come a long way. I feel like I have. And I guess at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. If you, you feel comfortable doing something, then, people are going to like you. People aren't going to like you. That's just part of life. You're certainly not going to make everybody happy. But for those of you who are loyal listeners, who are, people who have stuck around for all this time, I am forever indebted to you. And, I wanted to give you a big shout out here. So thank you so much. And hopefully you will continue to make this show part of your weekly routine as we continue to get through 2023 and work our way closer to Survivor Series and Royal Rumble season, and before you know it, we'll be into 2024. So yeah, things are looking pretty damn good here for us wrestling fans. So I hope you guys all have a phenomenal rest of your weekend. Walk passionately in the direction of your dreams, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.